Have you ever taken the chance to look at your surroundings and wonder how much of it was made with the intent of impacting you as an individual? You see, every aspect of your life, from what you buy in the grocery store to how much time you spend on your phone, is the result of intentional and effective design choices. Being aware of how the things that you interact with on a daily basis have been designed can help you be more conscious not only as a consumer, but be more cognizant of how things are being made in order to influence you and your opinions as a person. As a student of design, it's fascinated me how much of our lives are controlled and molded by hidden design choices, and how often designers feel that the ethical ramifications of their work fall outside of their job description. As Victoria Segaro put it in her 2018 article, What is Ethics in Design? You see, design can be considered unethical for its impact on communities, its exploitation of human behavior, and its employment of psychological tactics in order to manipulate a target audience. The impact of these design choices can be seen throughout society, from the division in our country and politics currently, to how long you spend watching the TV every day. The most blatant design philosophy that flies in the face of ethics is human-centered design, which disregards the larger effect design has on our communities as a whole. Designer Rob Gerling stated in his 2017 article, Beyond the Cult of Human-Centered Design, that, if followed blindly and left unchecked, this cult of designing for the individual can have disastrous long-term consequences. You see, this lack of concern for how design can affect the larger community as a whole is quite commonplace in design. For example, Airbnb, a popular temporary housing market I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, has in reality pushed thousands of low-income residents out of potential affordable housing through making properties in low-income areas more profitable as second properties to more wealthy homeowners. Facebook has also hurt American culture through becoming an echo chamber that purposely reinforces divisive biases through selective content in order to boost the time that we spend on the site. This can be traced to be one of the many reasons we as a country are so politically divisive in this day and age, and it was all designed with the sole purpose of generating revenue for Facebook. Now, self-centered design leads to many repercussions in the community as a whole, but design can also dramatically affect the lives of the individuals for the worse as well. Now, many interactive designers have huge influence over how much time that you spend on your phone today. According to Asa Raskin, a once leading technology engineer in Silicon Valley, he was quoted with saying in Hillary Anderson's 2018 BBC article that behind every screen there are thousands of engineers working to make everything maximally addictive for you as a consumer, as if they're taking behavioral cocaine and just sprinkling it all over your interface. You see, the ability to mindlessly scroll through pages of content on apps wasn't just a coincidental design choice. The infinite scroll, as it's been coined nowadays, in social media apps is purposely designed by engineers in order to keep up app usage time and to keep people on their phones. You see, by allowing the muscle memory in your fingers to work quicker than your mind can think, you end up investing a lot more time and energy on these apps online than you would otherwise, and it creates a vicious cycle where you're stuck looking at content even though you don't want to be in reality. Likes, which also seem to be nothing more than just a silly minimal requirement for human connection online, are actually designed with a much more sinister intent than you would think. You see, giving people an artificial outlet to seek, comfort from loneliness or to seek self-worth gives many alternatives for actual, real human interaction. And it also creates a sort of dependency on this like system for value that people would normally get elsewhere. Now, you see, these manipulation of behavioral tendencies can lead to extreme profits for companies and designers. And as such, these psychological aspects of design too have very large ethical concerns with them. You see, psychological tricks are persistent throughout design in our society, from the colors of the labels of the products that we see to what appears first on your screen when you go to any website or load up any app. According to New York Times author Noah Scheinberg in a 2017 article, if we don't wise up as consumers, then the pulling of psychological levers may eventually become the reigning approach to managing the American worker, not just the American in his free time. To illustrate how this is pervasing into the workforce, I'm going to start with explaining an example about Netflix. Now, do you ever stop to wonder why the next show automatically plays on Netflix when yours is ending? This cultural habit and tendency to binge watch is extremely profitable for streaming companies, and by playing the episode at the end, even in the face of inactivity, it boosts the time that you spend on their site, and it creates kind of this cycle where, if I'm not doing anything, I might as well watch another show. Why not? When you could instead be productive with that time and use it elsewhere. Now, fascinatingly, Uber has recently employed the same tactic to psychologically manipulate their drivers to work longer hours in order to improve wait times for their riders. You see, when a driver is about to drop off a rider, they get a notification on their phone that they already have the next ride completely queued up for them, and all they have to do is press go, along with different target revenue goals that pop up on the screen to push them to keep driving. Like, oh, you're $10 off 150. Oh, you're $20 off 200. Keep going. Two more rides. The company puts this into the app with the express purpose and the design being to keep their workers working longer hours than they would voluntarily do otherwise. Now, you see, in looking at these ethics of design as consumers, we need to be more aware and vigilant about how this is affecting us in our world as a whole. These examples of communal, behavioral, and psychological impacts of design are really just the tip of the iceberg. And while it would be nice to believe, as Robert Kirkman said in the 2017 article Advances in Engineering Education, that companies would consider the design values and ethical values in play with each decision that they make, it really isn't realistic. A lot of ethics comes from the fallout of bad decision making, and a lot of bad decision making really can't be caught in the moment. It falls on us as consumers to have the responsibility to use our voice to weigh in on the ethics of companies' design choices every time we use their products by being more knowledgeable about how their products are affecting our communities and our world around us as a whole. We need to consider the impacts of products on our communities even when designers won't. We need to be aware of how design is reinforcing our behaviors for the worse. And we also need to be aware of psychological tactics that are being used to manipulate us that we often don't even realize. Now, I hope that by opening your eyes to different examples of ethical design concerns around you, that you begin to get a different sense of scale about how it influences you in every aspect of your life. And through this, getting a new perspective on your role as a consumer to choose which ethics you support every time you buy a product or open up an app on your phone. Thank you.